What if everything you believe makes you human? Everything you think makes you relatable, makes you vulnerable in ways you can't even imagine. Your openness, your honesty, your willingness to be vulnerable with others. What if these qualities, the ones you wear like badges of honor, are actually what make you a target? You think that showing your true self, revealing your emotions, sharing your struggles, is a path to connection, to respect, to being liked. But the truth is far more uncomfortable. The world doesn't reward your honesty. It doesn't celebrate your openness, and it certainly doesn't protect you for being kind or emotionally available. Instead, it finds those weaknesses, smells them out, and exploits them. Every manipulator, every selfish person, every predator in human form will recognize your vulnerability immediately, and they will move in to take advantage. Look around you. Think of the people in your life who are constantly being used, constantly being walked over, and constantly being manipulated. Often, these are the people who have the biggest hearts, the ones who give freely, who trust easily, who reveal too much about themselves without thinking about the consequences. They are the ones whose generosity is assumed, whose patience is taken for granted, whose loyalty is exploited. And here's the critical point. This isn't a failing of character. This isn't a moral weakness. This is a strategic mistake. And it's a mistake that has been studied and warned about for centuries. Machiavelli, writing more than 500 years ago, understood this better than almost anyone. He saw clearly that human beings respond not to virtue, not to goodness, not to honesty, but to power, to strength, and to the signs of control. He recognized that every weakness you show is a signal, a flare that alerts others to the ways they can manipulate and exploit you. By the end of this video, you will understand why showing vulnerability can be fatal in the game of respect and influence. You will learn how to protect your most critical weaknesses while still living authentically without turning into someone cold or emotionless. You will see that concealing your vulnerabilities doesn't make you dishonest. It makes you intelligent, it makes you strategic, and it allows you to operate from a position of power in every interaction you have. Machiavelli's warning was simple, brutal, and timeless. Show your weakness, and you invite exploitation. Hide it, and you command respect. Control your relationships, and take power over your life in ways you never thought possible. Weakness is not a moral failure. It's not a reflection of your character, your kindness, or your honesty. Weakness is a signal, a flashing light that tells the world where to strike. It's something that others can sense, something that human nature instinctively reacts to. When you show emotional vulnerability too openly, when you overshare details about your life, your struggles, your doubts, or when you constantly comply with what others want just to avoid conflict or disappointment, you are sending a message. You may not even realize it, but the message is clear. I am malleable. I am available. I am exploitable. People can smell it, even when you try to hide it. Just as predators sense fear in the wild, manipulators, opportunists, and selfish individuals detect weakness in humans, and they circle like sharks waiting for the first sign of blood. Machiavelli understood this instinctively. He knew that appearances are everything, and that vulnerability is not just internal, it is outwardly visible. To appear strong, even when you feel weak inside, is the first rule of survival and influence. The world does not care that your heart is good or that your intentions are noble. The world cares about signals, and those signals are what determine how others will treat you. If you present yourself as malleable, as easily bent, or as too available, people will take it as an open invitation. They won't respect you for your honesty or kindness. They will exploit you. They will take what they can, and they will move on to the next target when you have nothing left to give. Consider the coworker who always says yes, even when it costs them time or energy, or the friend who never sets boundaries and ends up doing favors everyone expects automatically. Think about the partner who forgives too easily, who gives second, third, and fourth chances without consequence, hoping that understanding and patience will earn love or respect. In each case, what seems like virtue is actually weakness in disguise, and the consequences are always the same: overextension, manipulation, and ultimately, a lack of respect. People do not respect the nice guy, the overly forgiving friend, or the endlessly compliant partner. They respect control. They respect decisiveness. They respect boundaries that cannot be crossed without consequence. If you allow yourself to be perceived as soft, you are giving others permission to use and devalue you. Weakness, therefore, is like a scent, and it attracts exactly the wrong kind of attention. It is invisible to you, but visible to the world. It whispers to predators, manipulators, and opportunists. Here is someone you can take advantage of. And unless you understand this principle, unless you recognize weakness for what it is, you will continue to walk through life leaving trails of opportunity for others to exploit. Machiavelli's advice is chilling in its simplicity. Always appear stronger than you are, always control the signals you send, and never allow your vulnerabilities to be easily read. Once you understand that weakness is a scent, the next step is clear. You must learn to conceal your vulnerabilities. This is not about lying or pretending to be someone you're not. It's about self-preservation, about protecting the aspects of yourself that can be used against you. Every human being has weaknesses. Every person has insecurities. Every mind has fears. The difference between those who are respected and those who are exploited lies in how much of those weaknesses they allow the world to see. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago, and his insight remains more relevant today than ever. Never reveal what can be used to manipulate, to control, or to take advantage of you. The first type of vulnerability to hide is emotional sensitivity. Showing hurt, anger, disappointment, or fear immediately is an invitation. When someone notices that your feelings can be triggered easily, they know exactly how to influence your actions. If a coworker sees that criticism breaks you, they will push harder. If a friend notices that rejection sends you into panic, they will exploit your need for approval. Emotional transparency is not weakness in private, but when broadcast carelessly, it becomes an open door for manipulation. Learning to pause, to absorb, and to respond deliberately is essential. The world does not reward immediate reactions. It rewards those who control their inner state, who can project strength even when they feel fragile inside. The second vulnerability to conceal is financial dependency. Lending too freely, borrowing too much, or showing that your resources are at the mercy of others can make you a target for exploitation. People instinctively look for ways to gain advantage, and if they recognize that your finances, possessions, or time can be manipulated, they will take it. Machiavelli warned rulers against showing scarcity, desperation, or lack of control, because once others sense it, they will use it to their benefit. In modern life, the lesson is the same. Maintain control of your resources, lend selectively, and never allow anyone to assume that you are always available to give what you have without consequence. The third vulnerability is social desperation. Over-eagerness to please, a constant need for approval, or the compulsion to say yes to everyone may feel noble or kind, but it signals weakness. People respect those who have priorities, boundaries, and standards. Those who are too eager to gain favor become predictable, exploitable, and ultimately undervalued. By hiding this need, by maintaining a degree of independence from the expectations of others, you assert your own value. You create a sense of scarcity in your presence, which forces others to recognize your worth rather than taking it for granted. Concealing your vulnerabilities is a matter of practice and intention. Respond with calm instead of reacting. Measure your words instead of speaking impulsively, and maintain strategic silence when the situation calls for it. Choose carefully what you reveal and to whom, because every disclosure of weakness is potential ammunition for someone else. This is not deception. It is self-respect. It is the deliberate act of protecting yourself so that you can operate from strength rather than from fear. Those who fail to understand this become predictable, malleable, and used. Those who master it control how others perceive them, how others treat them, and ultimately the trajectory of their lives. Once you have learned to conceal your vulnerabilities, the next step is understanding that true strength is not aggression, and it is not dominance for its own sake. Strength, in the Machiavellian sense, is calculated control. It is the ability to operate from a position of authority, even when others cannot see your full capabilities. Showing too much weakness invites exploitation, but showing brute force at all times is equally dangerous. The real power comes from mastering both your internal state and the way others perceive you. It comes from projecting competence, stability, and unpredictability at the same time. People respect those who act deliberately, who do not give themselves away freely, and who make every interaction count. Selective generosity and availability are the tools through which this power manifests. Being helpful is valuable, but only when it is meaningful and given on your terms. When you help indiscriminately, when your support is assumed rather than earned, you diminish your influence. Those around you learn that your time, energy, and resources are always available, and they begin to take them for granted. The Machiavellian approach flips this dynamic. Offer assistance when it aligns with your goals, when it strengthens relationships, or when it reinforces your image as someone who acts deliberately and strategically. Make your generosity count. Make it selective. By doing so, every act of help you provide gains significance. People notice when your support is given deliberately rather than out of compulsion, and this perception creates respect. Machiavelli also emphasized the importance of unpredictability and strength. When others cannot anticipate your decisions, they are forced to consider your power carefully. A leader who occasionally withholds approval, who does not always grant requests immediately, or who acts according to deliberate priorities rather than blind obedience, commands respect far more than someone who gives freely and indiscriminately. This is not cruelty. This is control. It is the ability to influence others not by fear, but by strategic presence. Every interaction becomes a test, and people learn quickly that they cannot take advantage of you because you operate on principles, not impulses. The lesson here is critical. Power and influence do not come from overexposure or from constant compliance. They come from mastering the balance between openness and guardedness, between generosity and self-interest, between accessibility and exclusivity. By controlling how much of yourself you reveal, by selectively granting favors and assistance, and by maintaining a steady, deliberate presence, you create a reputation that demands respect. Those who are too available, too giving, or too eager are inevitably exploited. Those who understand strategic strength create an aura that others instinctively recognize as authoritative. Strength is not loud or aggressive. It is subtle, calculated, and impenetrable. Concealing your vulnerabilities is only part of the equation. The other, equally important component is emotional discipline. Every time you allow your emotions to control your actions, you are giving away power. Anger, fear, frustration, or impatience are like open doors that others can push through, whether consciously or unconsciously. When you react emotionally instead of responding strategically, you broadcast to the world exactly where you are vulnerable. People learn quickly which buttons to press. They notice when a word, a slight, or a criticism triggers you, and they use that knowledge to their advantage in the future. Machiavelli understood this principle in the context of rulership, but it applies universally. The individual who controls their emotions controls their world. Emotional discipline does not mean suppressing your feelings or pretending you are invulnerable at all times. It means recognizing your emotions, understanding them, and choosing carefully how to act upon them. When someone insults you, your instinct might be to fire back immediately, to argue, or to lash out. But the strategic response is often silence, a measured reaction, or a calm acknowledgement that forces the other person to reveal their intentions. When someone pressures you into a decision, the emotional impulse may be to agree quickly to avoid conflict. But a controlled response, pausing, reflecting, evaluating the situation, gives you time to act in a way that serves your long-term interest rather than their immediate demands. This is the difference between being reactive and being strategic, between handing your power away and keeping it firmly in your grasp. Practical emotional discipline also requires understanding the long-term consequences of your reactions. Every time you allow frustration or fear to dictate your actions, you risk sabotaging relationships, opportunities, and your own reputation. Those who respond strategically, who measure their words and their actions, maintain authority and earn respect because they demonstrate control. They become people others must consider carefully before acting against, manipulating, or provoking them. Emotional control transforms your presence into a weapon. It allows you to operate calmly under pressure, to make rational decisions when others are panicking, and to project a strength that is both visible and respected without needing to shout or dominate. Machiavelli wrote that a wise ruler's intelligence can be measured by the company he keeps, and by extension, your ability to make sound decisions depends on your own emotional mastery. When you respond emotionally, you cloud your judgment, make impulsive choices, and allow others to manipulate your actions. When you act strategically, you evaluate each situation through the lens of long-term advantage. Emotional discipline is your shield because it protects your vulnerabilities, preserves your power, and allows you to operate from a position of authority even when circumstances are chaotic. Every person who has mastered this understands that their calm is more intimidating than anger, their patience more powerful than impulsive action, and their deliberate choices more respected than constant acquiescence. Concealing your weaknesses and mastering your emotions set the stage, but without ruthless selection, all of your effort can be undermined. Strategic ruthlessness is not about cruelty, revenge, or being heartless. It is about protecting yourself from those who would exploit your vulnerabilities and taking deliberate action to ensure that your boundaries are respected. Machiavelli understood this principle deeply. A ruler must be willing to act decisively against those who threaten his power or take advantage of his generosity. In life outside of monarchy, the same principle applies. People who show weakness, overgive, or overtrust will always attract individuals looking to take advantage. Ruthlessness, when applied selectively and strategically, becomes a form of self-respect with teeth. The first step in ruthless selection is recognizing who can and cannot be trusted. You must observe actions rather than words. Many people will claim loyalty, friendship, or goodwill, but only their consistent behavior reveals their true intentions. The person who continually cancels plans at the last minute, who borrows without returning, who takes advantage of your patience or generosity, is showing you clearly where their loyalties lie. To continue investing in these individuals without consequence is to invite exploitation. Strategic ruthlessness requires acting on these observations. You do not need to be harsh or dramatic, but you must enforce boundaries and consequences. Saying no, stepping back from relationships that drain you, and refusing to allow repeated disrespect are not acts of malice. They are acts of strength. Contrast the approach of the always accommodating person with the selectively firm individual. The accommodating person assumes that kindness and patience will be met with respect or reciprocity. But in reality, they train others to see them as resources rather than as equals. Every favor, every compromise, every unguarded moment becomes an opportunity for others to use them. The selectively firm individual, on the other hand, demonstrates through consistent action that boundaries are non-negotiable. When someone pushes too far, they face consequences. When someone repeatedly disrespects your time, energy, or resources, they are removed or corrected. This approach does not require cruelty, only calculated action based on observed behavior. The message is unmistakable. Your boundaries are real, your time is valuable, and you cannot be exploited without consequence. Ruthless selection also extends to prioritizing your own growth and aligning your relationships with your strategic goals. Some people must be removed from your life, not out of vengeance, but because their presence undermines your strength or distracts you from your priorities. Others must be engaged, but only under terms that reinforce mutual respect and benefit. This is not a world of constant conflict. It is a world of deliberate choices. Machiavelli's insight was that power does not come from pleasing everyone or being liked indiscriminately. Power comes from making hard decisions, enforcing boundaries, and acting decisively in a way that protects your position. When you consistently apply these principles, people begin to respect you not because they fear you, but because they recognize that you are not someone to manipulate, exploit, or take lightly. Strategic ruthlessness, therefore, is the final piece of the puzzle. Conceal your weaknesses, master your emotions, and then act selectively, decisively, and unapologetically to protect your value. This combination ensures that you are never used, never undervalued, and never perceived as an easy target. You create an environment in which respect is earned, boundaries are honored, and your presence is acknowledged as deliberate and powerful. The world does not reward naivety, and it does not honor blind generosity. It respects strength, foresight, and the courage to act when necessary. Ruthless selection is the mechanism through which all of your strategic control translates into real influence and real protection. By now, it should be clear that there is a single weakness you must never show, and it is the one that exposes you to exploitation, vulnerability that can be used against you. Whether it manifests as emotional sensitivity, overgenerosity, eagerness to please, or impulsive reactions, revealing this weakness signals to the world that you can be manipulated. People do not respect goodness alone, nor do they admire openness for its own sake. They respect strength, consistency, and control. They respect the person who is deliberate, who acts strategically, and who operates from a position of self-possession. Concealing your weaknesses is not dishonesty. It is mastery of the rules that govern human interactions, a survival tactic that transforms vulnerability into power. The benefits of mastering this single principle are profound. When you hide your weaknesses, you earn respect from everyone you encounter. You protect your energy and your resources, because no one can take advantage of what you do not reveal. You enhance your strategic power in every area of life, professional, personal, and social, because others cannot predict how you will respond or exploit your actions. Every decision you make becomes deliberate. Every interaction you engage in reinforces your authority. When you act with controlled strength, people think twice before challenging you, pressing you, or assuming they can push your boundaries. They recognize that you are not simply good or kind. They recognize that you are strategic, deliberate, and untouchable in the ways that matter most. Internalizing this lesson requires more than understanding. It requires a shift in behavior and mindset. You must commit to protecting your vulnerabilities, mastering your emotions, and acting with strategic ruthlessness when necessary. You must cultivate the ability to say no, to pause before reacting, and to engage only on your terms. You must build relationships based on mutual respect and eliminate those that undermine your strength. This is not easy because the world often rewards emotional transparency and blind generosity in the short term. But in the long term, Those who hide their weaknesses and operate strategically dominate, influence, and thrive. They are never victims, never targets, and never undervalued. Repeat this affirmation and make it a cornerstone of your mindset. I hide my weaknesses, guard my power, and act with strategic strength. Let it remind you that your vulnerabilities are yours to control, not theirs to exploit. Let it reinforce that strength is not loud or aggressive. It is deliberate, calculated, and commanding. Appear invulnerable, even when you are human, because in the perception of others, control is the ultimate currency of respect. Those who master this principle achieve what most people never will: the ability to navigate the world with authority, to protect themselves from exploitation, and to command the respect that is owed to anyone who operates from a position of true power.